focused on leadership and communication to build your knowledge, authority, visibility, and influence as a leader. 6 dimensions: intelligence, the regulating and recalibrating, integrity, intelligence, trust, unification, intelligence, strategic leverage and results, intelligence.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to Leadershipisation, all things leadership. Look, I'm going to talk today about an area of your career planning, an area that you have the potential to impact as a leader that you may actually misunderstand. The gap that I want you to be aware of, and the gap that we're going to discuss today, is this: being trusted with work is not the same as being trusted with influence. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, I guess you can be trusted to deliver. You can be trusted to follow through. You can be trusted to get things done. But for those bigger conversations, you're not in the room. You have no voice. So you're not actually shaping the direction. You're included in the work. You're relied on for the execution. You're relied on for the outcomes, but you're not sought for your perspective. And this can be really, really frustrating when you know that you're capable of more. Because influence actually is a different trust. It's a different trust because what it says is, I want your thinking in the room. And you want to learn to build this trust around your influence, because otherwise you can get stuck because you're valued for delivery and overlooked for a whole lot of the other opportunities. Delivery trust is going to result in more work for you. Go over there and manage that delivery for us. Whereas influence trust will actually help you to get involved in those conversations that shape what happens next. I'm Beth Bergen. I'm a global leadership and communication coach, and I would love it if you would join me as we begin today's conversation by looking at why it is that some leaders are deeply trusted to deliver, but are not yet fully trusted to influence. Our first talking point today is this one: trusting you to deliver an outcome and trusting you to deliver a direction are not the same thing. Just excuse me while I have a quick sip of water. Oh, that's a bit better. So if what we are is trusted to execute, then we're not automatically trusted to influence, because in the delivery, like if your seniors are observing you and they're looking at your delivery, they get the sense that, well, I know you get it done. We want to shift their thinking so that they trust you from an influence perspective, which means that they're saying and thinking, I want your thinking, I want your input before we actually design, before we decide, before we figure out what it is that we're going to do moving forward. Now, the important thing here for you to remember about your own career is that you cannot assume that because you have earned this delivery trust, that you're automatically going to follow on for the influence trust. Influence needs greater reliability. It needs perspective. It needs confidence. It needs communication. It needs credibility. So we want to build that reliability because people know that you're happy to share your perspective, that you're happy to speak with confidence, that you're clear in your communication, and that you bring credibility to the table. So this is the very first shift for you. You must stop assuming that great work, great output, great delivery gives your voice some weight. Big shift. Yeah. Point 2 today. If delivery is your jam, people might keep you in delivery. If you keep on showing that you're great at delivery, they're going to keep you there. They know you as a delivery person. So they don't think about you as a direction shaper. They think about you as a delivery person. And in many organizations, we keep people where they are most useful. So, from your perspective, the higher the reputation you have for getting stuff done, the more potential there might be for you to be overlooked for influence because they're just going to give you more stuff to do. Oh, that person, awesome at getting stuff done. Let's give them some more. And this can become a real trap for higher performers because we get into this cycle of pleasing others. It makes us feel good when we're asked to do more. Have a look at it. Have a look at it and make sure that what you're actually doing is providing evidence that you can and do contribute beyond the task so that it's not just about the task. Yeah. Third point today, influence trust is built before the decision is made. What do I mean by this? Well, what I mean is that your influence grows when your voice helps the room to think better. So you're invited into a meeting and you're able to contribute to that meeting in a way that helps the room to think better. So your influence isn't built after the decision has been agreed upon and it's landed. It's built on how you contribute while people are making sense of the issue. So it includes things like curiosity, how you ask questions, the kinds of questions that you ask. Um, it includes things like being able to identify and name the risks, being able to identify the other things that matter that might be important from a whole of an organization or a whole of a project perspective. And it also includes how you connect ideas to the broader outcomes that you're wanting to achieve. Trust influence is when what you do, what you say, what you ask helps others to think more clearly. So, what this means is that you've got to be on top of the topic. Strong influences are those, um, they're more than just adding opinions. Yeah. A strong influencer isn't someone who just has a range of different opinions. There's someone who uses that list of topics that I just gave you to improve the quality of the conversation. Yeah. That's how you become influential rather than just a delivery person or just a person who has an opinion. So, as I said, what it means is that you've got to be across the topic. The fourth point to talk to today is this: people trust your influence and are much more likely to trust your influence when they trust your motive. What do I mean? Look, they need to trust what you're trying to serve. They need to understand that that oh, what am I trying to say? People are more likely to be influenced when they believe that you're not protecting your own ego or your own agenda or your own outcomes or your own team. Because influence, it's relational. Influence is about being open and transparent and honest. It's not just intellectual. So, if you're wanting to develop credibility with your peers and with those who are higher up, that will increase if they experience you as fair, constructive, clear, and focused on the outcomes. So when we come back to the list that I gave you earlier about, being curious, approaching things by asking a range of different questions, identifying what matters, identifying and naming the risks, connecting the ideas to the broader outcomes that are wanted for the team or the project or the organization. Like these are the kinds of areas that you need to hone in on with clear communication, focused on those outcomes, being fair and being constructive so that you can build that credibility with your peers and with those people who are higher up in the organization. Because if your contribution is territorial, if it's defensive, if it's overly personal, your influence is likely to go down. They have to be able to see you as not over the top egotistical, not over the top pushing your own agenda, not over the top pushing your own outcomes, and not over the top putting your own team in front of everyone else. You need to be able to communicate in a way that clearly shows that you are serving the big picture, because it's the big picture that will help your influence to grow. The fifth point is this: your voice needs to carry weight beyond your role. What this means is that you need to think past your role and influence past your role. This doesn't mean interfering. This doesn't mean stopping thinking, hey, this is what I'm doing here, but I'm going to ignore all of that and I'll go over there and I'll tell those people how to run their team a whole lot better and how to improve their outcomes. That's not what I mean. At the next level, influence can't only sit in your function, in your team, and in your deliverables. You've got to be able to speak to those broader priorities. You've got to be able to speak to shared organisational outcomes. You've got to be able to speak to the organisational impact. So what this means is that you've got to have some understanding what are the goals, what's the vision for the organization, what's the strategic plan, what is it that they're trying to achieve. Now, what's important here, as I said, it's not about you interfering, it's not about you going and telling everybody else how they should do their job. There's no need for you to pretend that you know everything. This is where it comes back to what I said before. Look at these things through the kinds of questions that you can ask, identifying and naming the risks. It's about being prepared to look past what's immediately in front of you. So, what I find is that influential leaders are rather than asking the question of what is my part, need to step back a little bit and look to asking something like, what matters here? what matters here, because then you're looking at it under that wider lens of what does this mean for the whole? Not just what does it mean for me, what does it mean for my team? Okay. So it's starting to look at things through that broader lens. The leadership intelligence tool that I'm going to share with you today is one that I've called the 3-lens contribution. And this is all about, so instead of just adding your view, you can choose one of these 3 lenses to actually contribute from. And the goal here is to move from here is my opinion to here is something that is useful for the room to consider. Remember earlier what I said to you is that you become more influential when what you're able to do is to contribute to higher quality conversation in the room. So when you can shift to providing something that is useful for the room to consider, this is when you start building that influence trust. So there are 3 lenses. First one is risk, second one is impact, and third one is momentum. So what I'm going to do to help you with this tool is discuss each of these for a couple of minutes. So the first one is risk. And this is really where we need to be considering as an overall question, what might we be missing here that could matter later? What might we be missing here that could matter later? And these are things like a possible consequence, a stakeholder who hasn't been considered, a bit of a gap in your plan, something that might slow down or speed up the implementation, and a risk that's been avoided because it's a little bit inconvenient. It's easier if we just ignore that risk. The important thing to recognize is this: it's not about you being negative, it's about you protecting the quality of the decision. So, when would you use this? You would use it when the conversation is moving too fast, when people are being too optimistic, when thinking is too narrow or too focused, and you seem to be speeding towards getting an answer. That would be the ideal time to use the risk lens. The second lens is impact. And the big question here is who or what will be affected by this? Now, this is all about showing that you can think beyond your role, because we're looking at how this might affect another team, what it means for customers or clients and stakeholders. We're considering and raising questions about the impact on workload, on trust, or on morale. We're considering, does this decision support the bigger outcomes, and what could this mean beyond the immediate team or the immediate area? And you would use the impact lens when the conversation becomes really focused on action and not enough on consequences. So when it's go, 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 yeah, we'll do this, and we're not stopping to think about who we might be bowling over on the way to making the decision. Yeah. The third lens is the momentum lens. So we've got risk, impact, and momentum. And the big question here is, what would help this move forward? We want to get the momentum happening because, as you know, sometimes we get stuck. We just keep circling around, and everyone says, why are we having these meetings and not getting anywhere? That's a topic for a whole nother time. This is where what you could be doing is referring to the next decision that's needed, or identifying what is the one thing that might be blocking the process, or who needs to be involved to get the momentum, or what needs to be clarified to keep the momentum going, or even things like what would make action easier. And what this shows is that you can move the conversation from a discussion to a direction. And you would use this when the conversation feels stuck, when it feels circular, we're going, excuse me, we're going round and round in circles, or it's really unclear. So this isn't about adding a view. Oh, excuse me. This is about actually adding a lens. So that through that lens of risk, impact, or momentum, your voice is likely to become louder and more useful. And useful voices equal influential voices. And that's what this conversation has been all about, making sure that you are learning strategies to become more useful and more influential. Okay, I love that tool. Looking at it through those three lenses, or one of those three lenses, is a really great way for you to make a quality contribution to any kind of conversation that you might be invited into. Want to build your influence? The more you use one or more of those three lenses, the easier it's going to be for you to become useful and influential. Now, our deep reflection question. Okay, where am I trusted to deliver, but not yet trusted to shape the conversation? Now, again, write this down, ask yourself that, put some answers, step back, leave it for a while, come back, have another look, so that you can clearly identify, okay, because once you've identified something, then you can make a plan. Our key takeaways today. If you're trusted to deliver, doesn't automatically mean that you've got influential trust, or that you're trusted to influence or shape direction. Influence is when you're able to help others to think more clearly. And that's why it's important that you have something like the three lens option to frame your contribution around. A final key learning to take away is this one. Your voice needs to carry weight beyond your role. This doesn't mean that you're going to be doing a lot of interfering in how everybody else is going. It means that you need to understand what your organization goals are, what their strategic plan is, so that you can talk to that when you're sharing your voice and sharing your ideas. Look, the reality is that if people trust your work, but they don't yet trust your influence, you may keep on doing more without being invited to shape what matters, because they'll keep you in that space. They'll keep you as a delivery person because they trust your work. Now, this is a different kind of ceiling on your career, and it's one that you may well be holding down. So, if this conversation has made you realize that you're trusted for delivery, but you're not yet fully trusted to influence, and you think it might be holding back your career progression, use the QR code or use the link on the platform that you're watching this on to book a conversation with me, because the next level is not just about more valuable work. It's about becoming a valuable voice. And that's exactly what we want to do. If you're only trusted now to deliver, you may never be invited to influence. So use the QR code and book a conversation with me. Thank you for being here. If you've got questions or comments, please pop them on the platform that you're watching this on. Make sure that what you're doing is liking and sharing and subscribing if you're watching this on the podcast. We're excited to be able to hear your feedback and also keen to answer any specific questions that you may have about leadership and also to deal with any specific topics that you may think are interesting. Thank you so much. See you next week. Bye now.
To build your knowledge, authority, visibility, and influence as a leader, 6 dimensions. Intelligence, the regulating and recalibrating.